Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. I'm excited for today's episode. We got two for one. Today, we're talking to owners and luxury wedding officiants at Weddings Royale. And what they do is they help to tell their couples love stories at their ceremonies and mentor them through their marriage. Very excited to be rocking out today with Ryan and Valerie Kingsman. Hey, you guys ready to rock?
Yes, let's do it.
Awesome. So we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
I think we were inspired really by the failure of our own wedding ceremony. It was 13 years ago. I know that felt negative. I wanted just the person we had put there, our friends, to just focus on our love story and do something kind of quicker and we're going to have more fun with. The churcher. It went an hour. It was pretty painful. Yeah, my feet hurt. People were bored, and we were just thinking about the food. And I thought, wow, I remember what that feels like. And then we saw our friends. The same thing kept happening in their ceremonies. And we're painfully watching it go. I know what she feels like. So a couple years later, we kept thinking about it, and we got an opportunity to do a ceremony for a couple that couldn't get married in the church traditionally that we were working at. So we were on staff and have a background in church ministry. But yeah, it gave us an opportunity. Ryan actually did the ceremony, so you can talk more about that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember they walked in to ask the pastor at the church I was working at, and he rejected them. And so they just walked out, like you could just see they became trusting and vulnerable and started to walk out. And so I was recently licensed, and so I reached out to him and just said, "Hey, like I don't know if you want me to do it. I'm the music guy. I'm not the head guy of the church, but I'd love to support you." We met up for coffee, and it just from that initial contact when we had face to face time made enough of an impact on them where they trusted me with the role. And so then a few months of planning, getting to know them and their story, doing their wedding. I remember like sitting at cocktail hour. It went amazing. My family's there. We're invited to the reception. I'm enjoying drinks and good food. We go home with a bottle of wine. And I'm like, how, like, this is awesome. I would do this every day if I could. This is so cool. And so from there, we did it on the side for a while, but eventually it got to the point where it was like, maybe we could actually like create our own brand and like actually do this for real. And so we built our website, we started marketing, and here we are today where we've married over 1,000 couples and given them the ceremony of their dreams and are really changing the expectation on people's wedding day, where they're in the past, like the ceremony is what we have to do and then we get to have fun. Now the couples we work with are like, no, the ceremony is treasure. This is one of the best parts of the day. And that's still kind of a newer idea in our culture, but it's fun to feel like we're touching their lives, but also we're kind of reshaping the expectation around the wedding day is pretty cool.
Well, it's really cool. Okay, so now you've been doing this for what, 7 years or so, right? And
First
all
wedding
these
10 years ago. Yeah.
But started the company officially, the branding 7 years.
Yeah. Took
Wow.
3 to figure out we can do this more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. Well, and this is like a performance, really, is what you guys are doing, right?
Yeah. Which really allows us to incorporate, because we were really both performers before we met. Ryan's a musician.
It's some like fun Broadway type stuff.
Yeah, I actually worked for radio and was a news writer for television news. And I just hated all the negative stories. I'm like, where can I have covered a fun story? Where are the happy people? So I get to the fun story. The last story I did before I left TV was a suicide. And I thought, I love stories. I just don't the bad ones, So yeah, whirlwind, we kind of just went our own ways. And then when we met, I thought our love story was the greatest thing. So yeah, just kind of pulling from all of the ways that we know how to already engage with guests or with a crowd. And we're like, they're missing all of it in the ceremony. That's what makes it boring. So can we make it fun?
Yeah.
I mean, tell our couples, like, let's give them permission to have fun later in the ceremony.
Well, and it is like you said, a performance. It feels, honestly, it feels like if we've done our job well, we kind of feel like rock stars, and it's kind of a balance because the wedding day is about them. I don't want it to be about us, but the connection we make with the couple, they feel like they have something special that they've invested in. And so when we arrive, like the bride and groom, the couples, the family, they'll come running to us and be like, oh my gosh, here they are. They're so proud to have us be a part of their day. So you kind of feel like, I feel like a VIP here. And then of course, when the ceremony's happening, you really are the master of the ceremony. It's about your stage presence. It's about your ability to engage the audience, where you're not just giving the couple a beautiful ceremony, but you want the rest of the night, their guests, to come up to them and be like, that was the best ceremony I've ever seen. So there is a lot of performance and being comfortable speaking on stage. It's really important as well.
Right on. So there's a lot of good notes there. Now, unfortunately, though, I would like to talk about some bad notes, just because, in business, not everything goes as planned. And I'm interested where you're going to take this, because you can either take it in like, did anything bad go while you were like administering your business, or was there anything like that didn't go well at the ceremony that, maybe you recovered from? Because, I think hearing these stories, especially as an entrepreneur, and hearing how something can go bad, but then end up being good, is, I think, helpful for people to recognize that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have failures as long as you move forward. So can you
Yeah.
share any stories?
Yeah. I mean, I
I don't even know how much
you know, it's been a while, but it was such a painful experience. And I think to other people, maybe it doesn't feel that bad, but at the moment, I mean, I was devastated. So there was a wedding I came to, was on a yacht in Newport Beach, like cool setup. I arrived, and at that time was still earlier on where we're doing this full time. And so like, I'm not the best note taker and most organized person in the world. Like, I have to force myself to do that. She's much better at it. So for this wedding, like, I thought I had taken great notes. I still to this day swear that last minute they changed something and didn't tell me. And so I arrived at the ceremony set, I do sound check. And then all of a sudden, about 10 minutes before the wedding starts, the planner brings out a table with all these like vials of sand. They want to do a sand ceremony. If you've seen that in a wedding, it's basically like the two becoming one. They mix their sands and all that. So, but they didn't tell me, or at least I didn't have that in my notes. And I was like, I don't remember them ever saying this. And so real quickly, I was like, okay, I'm literally lining up to start the ceremony. So I went to, on my iPad, a past script and copy and pasted from someone else's script. Here's the verbiage I used for the sand ceremony. I'm good. But when it came time in the ceremony, I was so locked in, like, I'm not prepared for this. So instead of being free and speaking and engaging the audience, I was like, I'm really going to read word for word and just make sure I nailed the reading. And I didn't realize I had someone else's name in the script. And so the whole ceremony, I'm saying the right names. It's like 15 minutes of the right names of, let's say Sarah and Steve. Then I get there and I'm like, and now Jonathan and Brienne, and decide to do a sand ceremony. And like the bride just stops and her eyes are big. She's like, what? And what made it worse is like some uncle on the front row was like, uh-oh, like just all loud for everybody. And I was like, oh no, what did I say? And so like, I'm sure like I spent out.
This is like year one.
I'm sure I spent out like my talking, and I'm sure I was like kind of looking red and things. And they were so generous because I hadn't gotten it right for most of it. But I just remember walking away from that ceremony being like, that is never going to happen again. And I can honestly tell you it hasn't, but that's like getting names wrong is like the worst thing, So that and dropping the rings, like you do not do those two things. So it taught me an important lesson about like, check your notes, make sure you're on the same page. Get there early enough to make sure that you're available if there's some kind of change that happens last minute. It was painful, but it definitely taught me some organizational skills that I'm not naturally good at.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. And of all places too, like the name wrong in a sales call. Okay.
Yeah.
But this would be a little different, eh?
In
So
the
nice.
video.
Yeah.
Video.
Oh yeah, of course it was recorded. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll never live it down.
No.
But you know what? I will bet you that they loved it. It's probably hilarious for them, right?
Yeah. I'll
And, like-
admit, they're one of the few couples I did not ask for a review because I was just worried. I know they were happy, but I was like, I'm not sending you the links. Like, we'll just let it be what it was and move on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure that they show it to everybody now and go, this is when they screw their names up,
Bring me, yeah.
Oh no. Wow.
Oh, that's good stuff.
I was thinking though, your example would be because we've been at some weddings that are not like the weddings we would want to be at.
Oh, yeah.
The one that you like, oh, it's the backyard and the dogs are barking at me and stuff.
That bull's chasing her.
Yeah. And that we realized over time that we were kind of pricing ourselves where we were accessible to everybody. But what we were offering was really something different that was more luxury. And a luxury officiant is really something that we coined the term of because we want to give you the luxury of really thinking through your guest experience and we'll create whatever you're looking for.
Yeah.
So some don't want to cry at all, or some want this, some want to laugh more, or some have unique things about their engagement or their love story. But that really was kind of a step up from a certain type of client. We realized we are drawn towards people that have similar core values. I wanted something in my ceremony. So how do we find those brides? Because it was producing kind of like not the chemistry in every couple that we would like. So when that would happen, it'd be a little like, I want to dive into your love story. Maybe you don't really care about it that much.
Well,
Like I said, we're not aiming that high.
yeah.
It's like, no.
When you're building your business, there is an element like at the beginning, I just took whatever I could get because I needed to get it started. So we started doing so many ceremonies that it got us exposure and we were able to take that next step. But yeah, there was pit bulls chasing me at different times, drunk uncles wandering in. Like it wasn't the kind of environment that ultimately we wanted to be in.
Yeah, we realized this is a product for a very specific kind of couple that's looking for something. But yeah, then we had some awkward.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't really connect, or he didn't really care, or he was really good, but nobody really appreciated it as much. So we found our bride tribes that really are seeking out this kind of experience.
Yeah.
So we feel like we just flow really well with our clients now.
Yeah.
But early
Awesome.
on, find our place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that advice is super like applicable to just about any business too, because it is sort of like, depending on what you're trying to attract, price point is going to change those people, right? Now, I do have an interesting question. So for me in my business, I've got a creative part of my business, and I've found that the lower the price, the more difficult the client is to work with. Meaning, like they have like these weird expectations, even though they're paying very, very little. And then I found the opposite to be true too, like where I'm charging this like, I'll raise the price drastically to the point where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get any clients. And then they have hardly any expectations. It's just like, do what you do, that kind of thing. Like, have you found that happening too?
Even with couples and even with planners, like that's one of the things we've seen is wedding planners that we work with, ones that are less experienced, maybe doing more of a budget wedding. Like you come in and they micromanage everything and they're like messing stuff up because they're overthinking it. And it's like, what's going on? And then we go to some like, we're in Southern California, some of the best venues in the world are here, the most, fancy and luxurious. You step into that property and if it's like this high-end planner, they're like, I've worked with you. I know you like do your thing. I don't need to tell you what, like they just give you your space. And same thing with couples. We tried. There's been times where we knew we needed to scale. There's a bride I'm thinking of like this last year with her, where it's like, we kind of are trying to give you a low end deal because you're moaning about the price. And is it still worth it for us? And then it was like, no, like you can see already, this is going to be the biggest pain in your butt kind of a bride to work with because you're going to give her the lowest price and she's going to ask for the most services. And not worth it.
You end up like, oh, can you also bring your microphone? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you're supposed to bring a DJ for that.
Yeah.
You bring this too, right? You'll do flowers. I'm like, I'm just doing all these different jobs. But yeah, the lower the price, the more I would work, the more calls I get, the more meetings they needed. And the higher end, it's like 2 meetings, we're good, and it's amazing. And they're super, super happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personalities too, we kind of jive a lot better. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
During things like pull our price, right?
It's scary.
We got quiet, and now we're so busy. Where I'm like, we should stand right.
No, I think it'd be just.
Yeah, I just find that interesting. I think it's probably because the people that are trying to spend less are looking like they're like deal seekers or like, you know what I mean? They're trying to like get the most for the least. And that's why they're kind of doing that. Whereas someone who's just like, you know what? I know this is going to cost some money. I just want them to handle it. I just want a professional. And so their attitude is more like, I'm going to throw a bunch of money at this and it's just going to happen the way I want it to happen rather than I'm, going to try to squeeze every little penny out of this deal. Right.
Yeah. It's funny. I used to think that like our booking calls, our first free consultation to kind of get to know them and see if we were a good fit. It was kind of us convincing them that we were going to be enough. And now we've turned it around where I'm kind of interviewing them to see if this is going to be a good fit. Say our ideal clients care about the experience. Our ideal clients, our couples are attracted to us because they're thinking about their guests and their comfort, and they don't want an hour-long ceremony. They want something focused on them. So when I use that verbiage, they start going, well, I could be that person.
Yeah.
Right. I can request.
Yeah.
I could be a royal couple.
Yeah.
And we kind of branded and created that it's not for everyone. And I think mentally we kind of had to be okay with that. Like not everybody's looking for that. But I also don't want to work with anybody else that is expecting more than the unique product that we created. And there's plenty of those people to keep us really, really busy. So
Yeah. Look, you know what? It's probably just like a rite of passage too, that you have to go through those tough clients to recognize your worth and what you're, because, wouldn't it be great? I mean, I'm sure maybe some businesses do, but it's very difficult to get into that mindset of like, I don't need you when you do need them, like, when you're first getting started. But it would be great if you could just skip right to that part.
Yeah.
oh, I know. Yeah, years ago. I mean, I never imagined we'd be this busy too.
Yeah.
This month we have 30 events, which is the most we've
Yeah.
ever done
In one month.
1 month. So
Yeah.
it's
And by the time this year's done, we'll have married 180 couples just this year. So, and over 1,000 now in general. But it's 2 years ago we had to scale because it got here big. And that year that we scaled, we raised our price. We did about 70 less weddings, but we made the same amount as the previous year.
Yeah.
Doing less. So we're at that place now where it's like we're probably gonna do less weddings next year, but making the same.
or more.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and you can put more into each event too, because you have more energy now, right? Rather than like burning yourself out, right?
Right. Yeah. We definitely won't forget names.
Yeah.
No. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit. I mean, if you can full schedule, how are you finding all these people? Like, what's your secret there?
It's starting out, the very first place that I got a chance was an actual company in Newport Beach. They did yacht weddings and they had just a select group of vendors. And so we actually went to go and think about maybe doing our 10-year anniversary on a ship. And after we talked to the lady, my wife was like, "Hon, like just come. You're a minister. See if they need an officiant." And so they had all kind of old dudes. They were all captains. They had nobody that was like younger and more modern. And so they gave me my first shot, really was our as we started the company officially. And so we did pretty much all our weddings through them. And then early on, even just being creative, like she found places to like put it in Craigslist and find free options. Just early on, it was like just getting out there any way we could. In the wedding world, there's it's called a Wedding Wire and the Dot are two avenues. There's a couple other ones as well where you can platforms to put your information. But really what's taken our company to the next level was doing the hard work of taking any and all weddings, but giving a good experience consistently. Even if it was in a backyard, we'd walk away and say, maybe the couple didn't appreciate our filet mignon. They were looking for a burger. But I'm still going to give the same experience. I'm going to be consistent so that I grow and that I can walk away and know I gave my best. And because of that, the reward was that now planners, photographers, people who are sitting in the audience at the wedding who are now engaged and want to get married. Now it's become word of mouth to where having that connection within the industry where people can say, you have to book these guys. Now couples will call us and we don't have to convince them of the price. They're not even thinking about the price. They're like, are you available? I have to book you.
Yeah.
So it really is taking a turn from like, let's advertise online to really all about relationships and having other wedding professionals who are like, we're going to tell people about you. So the word of mouth is huge in our industry.
We can trace every time, the business kind of scaled up to some specific relationship, some experience we had with someone who was like, you should be here. You should know so-and-so.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, there was a DJ who said, did you know that there's like this whole awards ceremony for California vendors in the wedding business? And we're like, what's that? I'm going to nominate you guys. So that took us into the world of really high-end professional vendors. We actually hosted their awards this last May.
Yeah, that's just MC.
Won the award
Yeah.
for best officiants. And there had been some people that would kind of won every year because there's not that many officiants for like decades. And then we kind of came on the scene. So we're like the hot new ticket now, but it's the relationships. And now they're all going, did you know there's this couple that does weddings? So they like having the security, and we tell them we're here to serve you guys too. So the food's ready and that your timeline's not disturbed. We have really, really good relationships with the people that are in charge of creating the day. So we've now turned up the planners, and the couple say, they told me you're the best. I trust them.
When we get a reference, if a planner tells a couple, hey, you got to go check them out, it's like a 95, maybe 90% success rate at booking within like a 30-minute phone call. So the planners, that's what we've seen is like their word to their couple, the couples trust them. So that's really become now like, how do we get more around these luxury and planners so that if we're on their list, then like we're taken care of, we're good to go. Um,
So now, when you're running an event, I imagine there's probably some expenses that have to be paid before the event that you get reimbursed at the end. Like, how does your cash flow situation work so that you know you're not going to lose money?
yeah. What's unique about ours is we don't use our own sound equipment. We factor in any kind of travel fees and gas and stuff. So we do destination weddings as well, but the heavy majority of our weddings are basically like Los Angeles to San Diego. So it's it's in the specific range. So we factor in travel fees. Really, the only other the biggest amount of money goes towards advertising still. And then attire, like we got to look good for the pictures and stuff. So we've got some good suits and dresses and cool outfits and things because we let couples dress us. So we look good for their pictures and match the theme and the style. So for us, it's the more and more that we've done into the luxury end, the more and more we're like, this is meeting our needs and then some. It's significantly more than what we're putting into it. Whereas there's people like DJs and florists where it's like, man, they're
All this equipment.
thousands of dollars of dyeing flowers and all this equipment. And for us, it's like, we're there for maybe 2 hours at the most, where we're there for sound check. So it's a really unique job that we put together where I think there's been people who've told us like, that's nice you guys do that as like a little side, hobby. And we're like, it's not like, maybe it feels that way for other people, but for us, like it's very, the majority of the money is income. We really don't have a lot of high expenses, which makes a beautiful experience for us too.
Yeah. Insurance and things that we have to pay, but we found really it doesn't look like what we thought it would look like. We thought we would need all this stuff, right? But there's like memberships with high-end planners that are thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Oh, you want to get to know us? It'll be an $11,000 trip to what?
But
But it's
luxury planners. Yes.
I'm like, wow, that's not what I thought. But they want you to invest in the time with them if they're going to get business.
Yes.
And that's kind of a new thing we've learned this year. But for a long time, it really is a really cost efficient.
Some of the other things too, though, is also looking for ways to grow this where you think about officiating, like that's a one-time thing for a lot of people. Maybe we'll do a second wedding in the future or a vow renewal or something. The majority of people, though, it's a one-time event. And so for us, instead of it being about, we served you on this day and now there's not really anything else. That's really over the last year, 2 years of us now looking and saying, we still have a great relationship with 1,000 couples who are thriving. I'd say we stay in touch in about 95% of them are still happily married, which is really uncool in our culture. So maybe we have magic pixie dust. If we marry you, you're like set for the long haul. And no, but there is a certain type of couple we attract, like we were saying, to where it's like, you got some tools in the toolbox that are showing up to be stronger in our culture. And so we've gone back to the drawing board of like, how do we learn from you? But the next exciting part for us for cash flow for the business side, but also impact, is we're building a community with these couples and saying it doesn't need to stop at your wedding day. We want to continue to not only be a part of your life, but actually bring all these couples together to have, online groups and memberships and coaching seminars and retreats to continue to invest in your marriage. Your wedding day was awesome. How do we keep celebrating with you? And so for us, that's the next exciting thing, is kind of saying this thing all along, we could have been doing this. And now all of a sudden our eyes are open to the opportunity with so many happy customers that we're like, continue to get resource from them, but also resource them and support them in their marriage.
Wow, that's really cool. And so is that something that you are going to be doing, or is it already in the works now?
Yeah.
If I turn the camera, the podcast is here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of and they tell us what they want. We just kind of didn't think of it for a while. They kind of experience these like wedding blues afterwards because now there's no plan. And people aren't planning to gather to celebrate them anymore. And they'd say, oh, it's so sad that our relationship is kind of ending with you guys. I wish we could keep celebrating. And they kept saying that over. I wish we could keep celebrating. And I thought, do you know how many couples we have in queue for the next couple years that are already booked that would love to hear about your experience? and you're the experts. So our business has always been elevate that couple and we get elevated. Our business gets elevated. So the podcast is going to be all love stories and their unique love stories and their advice that they would give to the brides and grooms that are kind of in queue, but they all kind of have the same values. We would hang out with any of them.
Yes.
We're like, y'all should just meet. So we don't normally think in terms of products, but that is a product. That's a membership. And we pitched it to so many of them, being like, what would be the interest if I told you didn't have to stop, celebrating, that you could actually join an elite group of royal couples who, now married. Why can't we celebrate everybody we married in 2024? Why can't we have our own galas and our own anniversary, things and celebrate you guys when you have babies? And they're like, I would be there, sign me.
Yeah, like waiting lists, like begging for it to get on.
Can't get it fast enough because our business also boomed with just the ceremonies at the same time. So it's like trying to find the time to now how are we going to do the podcast because there's hundreds of them lining up going, I want to be featured on the podcast. So it's overwhelming that this was something that has been there for years that we just didn't realize. We're just
well, and the cool part about it though is like we're not going after brand new clients. I mean, eventually our vision is like, where it's like, have you heard of this membership or this podcast where people that we didn't even marry are like, I still want to be a part of that because I see the value.
Yeah.
But I'm not even going after customers that I have to convince. These people already love us and know, like, my wife and I and our kids, like, they already are like, we buy anything you guys have. So again, we heard that for years and just like, we thought through like just the lens of officiating. And now it's like, no, like, oh my gosh, it's at our fingertips. We just got to get it going officially. So
they kind of just want to hang out.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Brilliant.
And I just didn't think in terms of cash flow that was a thing. But people will pay to buy their ticket to go, hang out with a bunch of other couples that we married.
Yeah.
And they're all very similar.
I would say, like, I know we're going on this for a long time, but just the other thing I would say real quick too is having other voices help point out, because a lot of this stuff also was having like a mentor or a coach who's like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Things that we weren't thinking. And so one thing that a coach randomly pointed out kind of just on the side a few months ago, Val's like full on implementing now, where we can't marry enough people. We can't duplicate ourselves. And so all of a sudden she had like a DJ and a chiropractor and a couple other people who were like, I love what you guys are doing. I'd be interested.
I'd like to work for you.
So she's setting up phone calls to be like, okay, how do we get you, like, if we can't marry this couple, we'll send them your way. And like, you're going to pay us some because we did the advertising for you, but kind of expanding our business slowly without them technically being an employee, but still like, we're making some money off a wedding that we would have just lost. So, but again, that was an idea that planted in our mind. And now it's like, we see the benefit of it. So it's, again, taking this thing that for some people is just a side hobby and being like, no, there are so many creative ways that you can make money and serve people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's awesome. Are there any other tools that you use to get success in your business?
I mean, to like the specific physical things, I mean, there's little stuff like, to us, aesthetics is so important. So of course the website first impressions are huge. As social media is still something where it's more successful than I ever thought it would be, but it's still like, I'm getting educated. We are in what we want that to be. That can be a huge tool, but even things down to like when we're officiating, we don't use a 3-ring binder with papers. We have a like small iPad, a small book, a handheld microphone, no mic stand, because again, part of, like a rock star, it's about the way you present yourself on stage and making sure that it's as clean and clear as possible. So for us, it's even thinking through how you look and the tools that you're using. Are these going to be distractions to your customer? Or are these things that, can really help in subtle ways make it a smooth experience for them?
Yeah. We were talking about that question. Like, our preparation has been a really kind of an invisible thing. It's what we've dropped out of. We have our scripts completely memorized, like 80% of it. And then with a couple inserts is, we'll read their words in their own words if we ask them to do that, or if they had a love quote that's very specific. But other than that, I said my goal is to make it look like we've been friends for years. So when your family members are like, did you go to college with her? Or like, why did I never meet her? That's kind of an invisible thing, but we found like people do want someone close to marry them. And so over the years, we've refined it going, we don't need a microphone stand. They don't like it in the pictures. We don't need the binder. We don't need this or that. And so when we let that go, it just looks really natural. And that really is the essence, kind of our signature way of doing ceremonies. It looks effortless, but there's quite a bit of
Very, very thought
science
through.
and preparation
Yeah.
behind it. And they trust us. They trust us a lot because of that.
It's good.
Yeah, it's very intentional. So tell me, what's exciting in your business right now?
You've covered all.
Yeah, I mean, the membership we're thrilled about.
Excited.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say we're making virtual date nights, which he's like, they're going to want to meet up in person too. But I was like, well, let me do some of these in my PJ too for the couple that are like me and they're busy and stuff. But they're all really jazzed about being able to go, and kind of commune somewhere where we can all talk about working on our relationships and, our wins in our marriage and our struggles. Some of them are having kids and they're feeling really disconnected just because they're at home now or in a new stage that maybe their other friends aren't. So I'm really excited about just seeing all of them again and having them come together. And I feel like they've always been really good at telling us what they need. And so I feel like we'll be really busy just creating all of those opportunities for them to grow together now.
Yeah.
But it's we can't get it together fast enough. They keep waiting for it and stuff. So we're got the podcast, we got the membership stuff we're rolling out. Our website's under construction and stuff, but
It still looks good. I mean, I love when we've had like a mentor or someone be like, I went on your website and I could tell you guys were luxury from what I saw right away. It's like, okay, cool. Like that's the branding element is something that we're really passionate about. I love that kind of stuff. And I think there's so many different ways. I mean, I think of like your podcast that we're on today, people who are here, you don't have to tell them being an entrepreneur is awesome and difficult. Like they're here because they know that. It's like, what are the tools? And in the same way with our couples, it's like, I don't need to convince you that your marriage is important. I just want to create the platform where you have opportunities to come. I'm going to make the space. You just got to get here and learn from each other. And that's what's cool too, is the couples we marry, there's so many stories. There's a bride she recently married who's I think 27 and already dealt with 2-3 years of breast cancer. And their personal vows were how he supported her through them prior to their wedding day, and like, wow, powerful. And then we've got another couple coming up that she's like a dog whisperer. And we're like, we want to bring her into these environments with our couples who have fur babies and be like, literally as part of the membership, you're getting free training from one of our Royale couples who knows how to give you some tools of how to, interact with your dog better. Like, so all across, like, it just, the more you get into stories, the more you see like, love is beautiful. It's powerful. It really is unique to everybody. There's different ways to express it. And then for me, the other big thing too is just seeing the membership grow and seeing the community really encourage each other. I'm thrilled about that. I'm so excited about the opportunities.
Amazing. Right on. So how do we find out more?
So our website is weddingsroyale.com. So WEDDINGS. And then Royale, ROYALE.com. If you do Weddings Royale, it'll pop up our website. It's the same thing for our Instagram as well. And so on our website though, or even if you DM on our social media as well, you can be like, hey, I'm interested in the Royale Couples membership or more information. And so they can find us on there, and then we'll get back to just about next steps and all the exciting things coming up.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love your naming of it, Weddings Royale and your Kingsman. Great.
Yeah. Yes.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Every couple is royal in their own way, man. So it's living that out in the daily life is so important.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Awesome. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast.